Hey, Turning Point, welcome to Teaching Tuesday Tools. Recently I've talked about Psalm therapy. And obviously when you look at the book of Psalms, it is a remarkable book. It's a remarkable model of how to communicate and express ourselves to God. But I want to take the next few Tuesdays to talk about Psalm production. Because one of the spiritual tools that we see in the book of Psalms is the tool of writing. And specifically writing Psalms, or writing our prayers. So I want to invite you to some remarkable conversations that I've had with some disciples in Turning Point who have gained a tremendous benefit by using the tool of writing. In this first segment, we're going to listen to Tyler and Steve about what they discovered about themselves and about God through the process of writing.
And so it was almost like writing was like, it forced me to wrap myself out almost. Like I wanted to say that I'm numb and I don't feel anything, but writing was like, no, you feel a lot. You still have a lot that's going on. And so it really did, like, I would always say like writing saved me from a lot, because I would have just, if I had nowhere else to put all I was feeling, I don't know what I would have done. But the reason why I feel like it's a part of my spiritual walk is because like that was God working through the writing. Like it wasn't just me coming up with things that saved me from falling down the abyss. It was I'm using that to, because I wasn't able to go to him at the time because I just thought I can't go to anybody. I have to deal with this by myself. And so he's like, okay, here's one thing you're still doing. You're still writing. You're still putting words on paper. So I'm going to reveal your heart through that. And then even in like when I was studying the Bible, like I would talk like I don't feel anything, and then I'd read the little essays they tell me to write, and it's like it's all there. So sort of like that was the thing that was keeping me going and pushing me forward, is I couldn't hide behind that. So it changed everything for me, like in all facets of my life.
And for me, writing is very therapeutic. I'm very anxious, and for me to be able to put the words on the page, it helps me to process. And I think I can process in a way where I can get really raw, which I think if you're talking to somebody, it could scare them. And I think well-meaning, people can be afraid, but I'm not losing my relationship with God. I'm just like in the Bible where David is talking about really deep things that he's experiencing. He's not walking away from God. He's just explaining to God, hey, Dad, this is what's going on. And that's where you have the freedom. But then when you do write, I really feel that I can start to hear the Spirit giving me direction. Once I have it all out on the paper and I can step back, there is a change in mood that happens where I think, like when you see in the Psalms or at the beginning, I'm in the pit, and at the end, I'm rejoicing. And I think I feel those moments as I write. And there are certain rituals where I'll do if I really, really am having a hard time. I will just use one sheet of paper and write everything out and then burn it, just kind of symbolically. I'm releasing all of this into the universe.
So amazing to listen to Tyler and Steve, how writing can be such a revealing and exciting process, but requires some courage. But speaking of courage, writing can also be scary. I'm not a professional writer. Many of us may be intimidated by that. So in case you're scared of writing, please let's take a second to listen to Linda and Sean, who can give us some really helpful perspective.
People may be afraid of writing because they're not aware that they're doing it all the time. I would tell someone who was afraid to write, and that blank page is to start by just writing a letter to God. Somehow writing a letter to God doesn't seem as big of a job. It doesn't have to be it could be a postcard. It doesn't have to be a big long letter. And I know that my journal all begins, Dear God. And my first line is always, Dear God, I'm so grateful for. And even if I've got stuff that I want to get out there and I'm mad at this person, it's like, no, let me start with gratitude. And then I feel I can run and do something crazy. But I think that makes it easier. Like, just tell God what you're grateful for. Try, think about what you can be grateful for. Even if it's, if you look at the pile of dirty clothes, look at it differently. I'm grateful for this pile of dirty clothes because it means I have clothes. I'm grateful for laundry day because it means I have a washing machine or it's something. And if they just start with gratitude and then let the pen go.
Okay, that's beautiful. All right, Sean.
Yeah, I want to piggyback what Linda said, but actually, it's more what Steve talked about. I feel like the best way to start is just writing down what's on your mind, like what's really on your mind, like keeping it real. Like, you know, for example, like if you're thinking of, like Steve talked about, work situations. Usually, work brings out the best and the worst in everybody, right? So spiritual, non-spiritual, it brings something out in you. So if it's your job, so you write down the word work. And then next to work, you write all the things that you're thinking about associated with work. I hate my boss. I hate my coworkers. I'm not making enough money, whatever it is, right? When you're writing that down and you're keeping it real, that's when you grow convictions, because you know in your heart that's not the right attitude to have. So I appreciate what Steve said. He's like, I'm going to write these things down that I know I'm going to burn because I know they're not good thoughts to have. But the fact that you're writing it down becomes therapeutic. Then you're actually, without even knowing it, you're talking to God. You're writing these things out. God already knows they're in there. So now you're writing these things down, and piggybacking what Linda said. So you write down, this is how I feel about work. How does God want me to feel about work? So you got, I hate my boss. I hate my coworkers. I'm not making enough money. How does God want me to view this job? Man, grateful that I have a job. Grateful that I'm able to pay my rent. Grateful I have, you know, people that I can, you know, talk to. So it's basically like you're writing what's really going on, and then you allow your heart to be moved by God through you reading back what you've written.
Yeah, I believe that everybody is a writer. They just don't know it because they haven't done it. But it's such a safe thing to do, because when you're talking to somebody, you might not want to tell them everything, but there's safety with that paper. Wow. It's just you and the page. There's nothing to hide. I mean, if you hate it, you can throw it away afterwards, but you still got it out there.
Yeah. Well, when I listened to Sean describe the writing process the way he just did, that you can get anything out, anything and everything out off your heart, I thought of the word confession. But confession in a very different way, not this dreaded confession and, oh, here's all the stuff that I've done, but actually this liberating, relieving communication to God of anything and everything that He responds to with loving kindness. Again, I think listening and learning about writing in this way makes it sound exciting and, like I said, amazing opportunity for us to really experiment with. But in order to have a level path for our feet, I want us to hear from Steve and Tyler with some really helpful permission-giving perspective.
I would say that sometimes people who are anxious or nervous probably have tried and they've given up. So I would just encourage them, like everybody else has been saying, about something small and short. Like my wife gave me this for Christmas, the 5-minute journal. And the 5-minute journal just starts off every day with 3 things you're grateful for, and then 3 things that would make the day great, and then an affirmation. And it takes 5 minutes. Wow. And I would just set a modest goal to say, like, okay, I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes every day, and then try to do a streak. Say, I'm going to write for 10 days in a row. And then the only thing you do is write. Don't edit it. Don't reread it. Just build that writing muscle, because there's 2 things going on. There's the behavior of writing, and then there's the behavior of editing. And when we get into our head and our inner critic starts going, we'll write something, then we'll talk ourselves out of it. Then we think that there's some sort of expectation that somebody's going to read it, or have to be this spiritual giant, or whatever goes on in our heads. Leave that alone. Wow. Just, my only goal is I'm going to show up whatever time you want that works for you, and be patient with yourself. Don't get really rigid. Just say, okay, 10 days. All right. Doesn't matter if it's 6 a.m. Doesn't matter if it's 10 p.m. I'm not there yet where I can just say I'm going to be here at a set time every day. You just want to be able to do it 10 days in a row, 5 minutes. Don't read it. And then after that, you reassess. And you keep doing that. And that's sort of like bringing you on slowly and setting yourself up for victory. Because it took me 27 years to build a 27-year writing habit. So it's not going to happen overnight. And then don't get frustrated with yourself. Just be patient, be kind, be gentle. If you miss a day, start again. That's really it. Just a lot of grace. It's no big deal. You miss a day, you missed a day. No, you're not getting paid. You're not getting a check. Nobody's waiting for your writing. No one's gonna die if you don't do your pages. So just have fun and just show up each day.
So and I love what was said, like, it's true. Like, if you have thoughts, you have something to write, because even if you're just writing the thought down and that's it, like, and you can start as small as you need to, because sometimes it can sound daunting when you hear, where other people are at with it. And I would just say my biggest thing too is, like, if you're bad at it, like, start bad at it. If you start bad at it, that's the best way to get good at it. So I think
I like that.
from wherever you're starting at the beginning, like, be there, be at that spot, and let it be bad, let it be incoherent, let it be not pretty at all. Like, but if you start, there's so many things I look back with the things I wrote when I first started. I'm like, thank goodness that nobody ever saw that. Like, that was just, I don't know what that was, but I've found what works for me because I allowed myself to struggle with it in the beginning. And so, yeah, it's really about just finding what works for you, as long as but I would say my little advertisement for why it's a great thing is because I see writing as like storage almost. Like, so for somebody who's like, this is not how I communicate, this is not how I express myself. So even if it's not that, even if your goal is never to be this great writer, this great person who can journal, like, I think it's more just like, you can put it somewhere, so you don't have to keep holding it in your mind. Like, our mind has a lot going on a lot of time, so it's some place to put one thing for now, and so you don't have to hold it, and it doesn't have to hold you, because it's somewhere. Like, and it's not like when I write things down that overwhelm me, or I'm going through a lot, like, I don't not feel that anymore. Like, it's not like, oh my gosh, it just goes away, but I feel like, okay, at least it's somewhere now. It's somewhere. It's not just stirring and becoming bigger. And then when you see it it becomes visible. Like, your feelings become visible when they're on a page, and then they become conquerable because they're visible. They're not that skyscraper that you thought they were in your head. They're something that you can take on, like, once you can just see it on the page. So if only for that, then I think it's worth it to try it out at least.
Okay, thank you so much for listening to this first segment on Psalm production. I want to call all of you to the challenge of do an experiment this week with writing. Whether you try it one day this week or you try it a couple of minutes every day, but do something to experience what you just heard these disciples share with us today. I have many more amazing conversations to share with you over the next couple of weeks, but for now, thank you for listening, and here is a special bonus from Sean Holland.
One of the raps that I had done before said, see, I'ma keep it on and popping. Long as iron keep on sharpening iron, there ain't gonna be no stopping. You better represent Christ in everything you do. Put on your armor every day, because it protects you. One love, one faith, one birth, one God, one Lord, one church. The blood of the Lamb is what I'm covered in, and I proclaim the Lord's death until he comes again.